So you might hear a buzz currently. My laptop is currently writing a vlog that I recorded earlier today. I am just publishing it from my iMovie as a file onto my computer, and then I'm going to upload it to YouTube. I truncated the song at the end to the first 53 seconds because I wasn't satisfied with the, mainly the end of it. I wasn't satisfied with. It wasn't a good look. My voice wasn't warmed up at all. And, I lost control on the big climax note. Push myself another day Yeah, the quality of that note at the end probably wasn't best, but I came to this interesting topic online. I was reading about unpersons from TV tropes, basically people who'd been erased from history. And it brought me to the topic of lost works, which has a Wikipedia article. And basically those are works that are lost to history. You can't find them. You can't find the manuscript. You can't find the tape. You can't find any of it. You can't experience it for what it was supposed to be, even slightly. This brought me to the topic of lost films, and that brought me to a sort of concept of, lost stardom, really, which I guess comes full circle to the whole unperson topic. There are two people that come to mind as far as that. One is Valeska Surratt, who, I'm not even sure his name I'm pronouncing correctly, but Valeska Surratt. She was born in 1882 and died in 1962, and she was a big star in her day. She was a big star of the silent film industry in the 20s. She starred in 11 films, all of which there is no record to be found of, all of which were burned in the a studio fire. I'm not sure it was the 1937 one or if it was later on. Another woman was Hazel Scott, and Hazel Scott was basically in the echelon of Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald in the 40s and 50s. She even had the first television show hosting gig of any African-American woman. Maybe not any African-American. I have to be clear on which one. She was hosting the Hazel Scott Show in 1950 on the defunct Dumont Network, most of whose programming is lost to history. This includes Hazel Scott's show, which, a friend texted me. I'll have to look at that. The show lasted only one season, and there's no footage of it. But as for Hazel, she was basically blacklisted mid-career because she either expressed or was accused of communist sympathies during the Red Scare, and that was a no-no. So, like Arthur Miller and like Lena Horne, she basically vanished from, the annals of Hollywood history. Whereas Ella Fitzgerald and Billie Holiday are well-known names. Ella and Billie, easily said. Hazel is not really said. Hazel Scott doesn't remain a household name, unlike the others. Now, when it comes to stardom, the thing with stardom that I mentioned this earlier when I was sitting alone, talking with myself alone. I mentioned, in essence, that, something I wish I phrased on camera, because usually I phrase things very well alone. that as a star, your soul is your capital. Your soul is your job is basically to exude your soul at a resonance that is maximally resonant to those that see it. Warts and all, as long as it resonates, it works. And that's really the role of an artist. But a star, an artist can separate his or her work or their work from themselves, at least in theory. But if who they are becomes emblematically equivalent to their work, then it gains a different context. And basically, as a star, you don't have to be tidy, but you have to mean something. And you have to mean something that people find beautiful or magnificent. Something of heroic scale. You have to have a presence. And, I'm writing a memoir, actually. I tend to, I found that it's a helpful means for me to organize my thoughts about my life and not constantly think about, parsing every word and, into, the perfect phrasing and getting it YouTube ready. Not even sure what. But yeah, one thing that seems to come up in my life is this great craving for meaning something to people, I suppose. And it's not even a selfish craving, to be honest. I feel like it's because I feel like I was almost born to do it. But a lot of things have gotten in the way. That might sound woe is me, but when you recognize that I've been to jail twice for assault due to mental health incidences that led to me being in a very vulnerable position, being held down and being desperate for someone to mediate. So why not the police? Being that during my first year of building my artistic career, this happened during that year, as well as did my parents and nanny all develop either a tumor, a cancer, or inflammation of the heart. Being that I was still coming to terms with being the woman that exhibits herself currently. Being that I left college abruptly due to behavioral issues. I take fault for a lot of this stuff, but I also recognize its circumstantiality in my life. It affects me. I didn't just affect it to happen. Considering all of that, and considering what's left of me, it makes sense. It makes sense to say. And in part, it's not a boastful thing to say. I genuinely often wonder what I'm even good for. And I'm 23 years old. And it's not like I'm an idiot. It's not like I'm uncreative. It's not like I have no insider perceptiveness to what I do. It's just that things haven't necessarily panned out as easily as I might have liked. Even my YouTube channel with its 52 subscribers, all of which I'm grateful for. For some reason, viewership tends to be low. But yes, going back to the topic of stardom, star quality, the purpose and role of a star. I mean, for one, you're not supposed to talk about the numbers of your game. It's not about numbers. It's about a quality. It's about a resonance, a presence, a spirit. That's what's so interesting about it, honestly. Just had to sneeze. Um, what's so interesting about it is, like, a doctor is there to save lives. A firefighter is there to stomp out fires. A star is literally there to resonate, inspire, and mesmerize. All spiritual qualities, qualities of charisma, qualities of soul expression. How do you capitalize on that? It kind of happens to you to an extent. It's not something that is meant to be, well, even then, like, it can only happen through means, can't it? And so you have to, it requires a team. It requires a sort of fiddling around, and can be calculating. Most of the stars I read about from the silent era, for whatever reason, maybe this is a superficial aspect of this, but I learned, even Judy Garland, for instance, her name was, hold on, Frances Ethel Gum. That's what she was born as. That's the name she was born with. Frances Ethel Gum. The last film star of the silent era, whose name was, yes, Diana Sarah Carey, Serra, Sarah is spelled. She was billed as that, and for all public intents and purposes, I suppose, was that. Her birth name was Peggy Jean Montgomery. She's often known as Baby Peggy, though, so I'm not sure when the name Diana Sarah Carey was used. Her career, by the way, fizzled out by the end of the 30s. There was a journalist, Walter Winchell, who reported that as of 1940, she was living with her husband in a rundown apartment, eating only donuts and nothing else to have for food. Well, now I've splintered off into two topics, haven't I? The two of which being the calculated mystique of stardom, renaming celebrities and, parting them into, these, beautiful figures and the like. But also the tragedy of when it all diminishes into mundane austerity, such as how Diana was living, or Peggy was living. Living impoverished is antithetical to living in the realm of glamour. Yeah, it happens so often. And the reason that they're so antithetical is that belched. The reason that they're so antithetical is that one has a romanticism to it. One ignites the flesh into something supernatural or preternatural. And the other whittles down the flesh, leaves it in its disintegrating state, leaves it in a humble form that, if the right soul inside is magnifying enough to radiate through the austere fixtures, then yes, it can be a star. But without that, the soul is lost on people. And that's very sad. And I fear that happens to way too many people. And I don't just mean those who got the chance to be stars. I mean people who graduated with their high school classmates, people who graduated with their college classmates, people who once worked somewhere, People who had good friends in their 20s and then found themselves in their mid-40s only betrothed to their families reluctantly and nothing else. The light goes out. And I suppose the reason why I come back to the whole stardom, I even wrote a song about it, whose outro goes, "Stardom is calling, waiting and wanting, stars on a mission." I'll have to put it on this channel at some point. It used to be on. Anyway. The reason I come back to it so much is that I need something to make meaning out of my life. And the only semblance I find of that is in letting my soul speak or sing or communicate in some way to other people as concisely as I can make it, and as as purely as I can distill it to them. I really don't know what else to do. And you can call me pretentious for that. You can tell me I need a job. I have a job. I work at a sales company. You can tell me to go to college. I have gone to college. I don't have a degree, but I have done many semesters of college for various careers, and it has not changed me very much. I still remain someone who is betrothed to the idea of meaning something to people, and at least having them feel touched by me in whatever way I can let that happen. And I suppose also that means something to me because it's something that keeps me going when I see someone touch me, when I'm touched by their spirit, their star, their radiance. It moves me to try another day, to create something, to persevere and keep on trying to sing, and just to mean something to people. So we all look for in some way. So if my way might be a little more nebulous than the other, as long as it is quantifiable and tangible, I don't see anything wrong with it. Now, one little thing that might get in the way of stardom is scandal. And scandal, you at least want to save for your 30s and 40s. Scandal in your 20s is pretty deleterious. Namely, in part because the sophomoric glimmer that comes with your 20s, being in the prime of life and being just adult enough to, be sensually appreciated, but also young enough to still have so much vitality and, future to look forward to, and fresh ambition, and a freshness that allows for learning to occur and evolution to occur. Those things can't really be regained, at least somewhat, after the 20s are gone. You can still gain notoriety and fame in your 30s, definitely. You can gain it in your 40s even. But the ingenue quality that the 20s has, it's not something you want to tarnish, namely if you have it. I don't know how true it is, but amid all that I've mentioned on this channel, as far as 2018 and, the time peripheral to it, it does feel somewhat like scandal has, plagued my life, my career, or potential thereof. And I fault myself for that. And, it's hard to look back on. It plagues you every day because, like I said, when you're a star, when you are exploring that as your MO in life, your soul is essential. And if that thing is tarnished, it's really hard to get back. And it's really hard to have people remain in the meantime. So, to an extent, a lot of my time, or at least my planning, has gone into finding a new way to build myself. I'm not, I'm not a new transitioner, for instance, as far as like my transition. People have seen me before in the scenes that I've explored, And so basically this is chapter 2. And with that, you fight for what you can get, always. But let me just say, there are difficulties that come with it. There is the chain of regret, the chain, holds you back, of regret, of guilt, of, prejudgment from other people who will understandably infer that you are the person you last were. Or will believe that you are who you are at your worst, rather than who you are at your best or medium best. And that's hard to surmount. You want to be very protective of your reputation and how people see you and how you see yourself. What you do in conjunction with that. If it goes away, you'll be left with an identity crisis. So, yeah, that is a bit macabre, discussing all this stuff about your 20s and how, basically if you screw up, which, you're going to screw up at some point, how big or how small, I don't know, but you're going to screw up at some point. The thing that if you screw up, you'll lose your innocence, your innocent beauty, your ingenue quality, very macabre stuff. But I guess I discuss it because I'm definitely not alone in having experienced such things. There are surely plenty of people who, are of various notoriety, who have experienced similar follies and plights. And they deserve a voice too. I deserve a voice too. So I suppose this is somewhat an act of self-love and, communication, reaching out, trying to find who might relate through that, develop something neat, something good to carry with you, something good for me to carry with me. Granted, I will admit I probably am slightly clinically depressed, and understandable considering all the stuff that I've had to manage psychologically. But it is worth expressing these things and letting them be heard, letting them be known, reaffirming that you have worth, that others do, that there is a light that never goes out. There is a light that never goes out. And so, yeah, whatever happens, maybe someday I will have my momentum back as far as building a brand. Because it doesn't just come in a year. And I basically had a year and a half or so of, developing myself as a star or whatnot. Because I was. Let's face it, I was. And in a new gender, too. Maybe I would have considered it longer if I were this gender the whole time prior. But, and maybe I'll get that back. Maybe it's It's just a matter of this quarantine ending and then being able to get back out there. But for now, I have to rely on things that are therapeutic to me. And I have to keep whatever positivity I can alive. Because it is there. And it deserves to be cherished. Even on the brightest of days. Another night, I'm the only one here. Another moment disappears. And still I cling to all that has gone wrong. But there's still light in here. Push myself another day forth. Push myself another day forth. Was that okay?